StarCraft 2 Esports is a very special title and very close to my heart, guys. Massive fan of the StarCraft esports scene. I believe it's the tennis of esports. It takes so much, guys, just to be at the top of your game for a long period and stretch of time. And I look at two guys in particular. One who's been there for a very long time. The other, not as long, but while he's been in the scene, has been a dominant force to be reckoned with. That being Serral and Dark. And so, guys, I want to talk about, in this segment of the show, is there anyone out there, anyone who can dethrone Serral or Dark moving forward here into the future? So let's talk about that. So right now, guys, we can say that Serral is in his prime. Dark has been playing at a very high level for a long time, but I would say that he is probably going to at some point or other slow down just because, you know, of his age and things of that nature. Serral's got a little bit longer of a shelf life in my opinion, but don't mistake, the age for some sort of weakness with Dark. I mean, this is a guy people did not believe was going to win a world championship. And he won BlizzCon, guys, in dominant fashion, and it's not even close. Now, we could argue all day that, you know, if Serral, the ifs of Serral beating Raynor to advance, Serral would have won it all once again. I completely disagree with that notion. I've had people ask me if Serral would have won, do I think that he would have beaten Dark after advancing against Raynor? And I do not believe so at all. Dark was on a mission to prove that he was still one of the best players in the world, and he absolutely is at this point in time. Now, sure, BlizzCon was run a little bit differently, but it just shows the tenacity and the, just mentally what Dark was able to do in that tournament. Now, that leads us to now. Can anyone dethrone these guys? Sure. At the end of the day, guys, there are people who absolutely can dethrone these players, these two in particular. Now, Serral has kind of had a tough time at times against a guy like Raynor. And Dark has had trouble with certain players, certain play styles and such. But when it's all on the line, Dark, generally speaking, shows up. He doesn't always make it all the way to the finish line, but he certainly did last year. And so he's the world champion. And he is the best in the world, in my opinion, right here, right now, until proven otherwise, because he just won, of course, BlizzCon. And that was at that point. Now, can somebody, who else would potentially dethrone these guys? I mean, right off the top of my head, I would certainly say Raynor is the guy. Now, obviously, he did not prove that he was the guy against Dark in that grand finals, but he's proven that he can beat the best in the world. He's been able to beat, Serral on a number of occasions. Dark is this guy, though, who I just don't know if Raynor is quite there yet, that he can make that jump to win in the biggest moments of StarCraft 2. And look, he's been able to beat some incredible players. He's right up there. But I do think it comes down to Serral and Dark once again. And that was the matchup I wanted to see. This was the battle for who is going to... This was, I mean, Serral is right at this point in time considered one of the greatest ever. But Dark had something to say about it last year and last BlizzCon. He had something to say about it. He essentially said that, I'm still one of the best in the world, and I want to be put on that pedestal against all these other guys. Now, we look at the best players ever, guys. We look at Life, who I believe was the greatest ever to play. However, he, was caught up in the match-fixing scandal, and when you talk about cheating, guys, I cannot give you that label of greatest ever because it's kind of, there's a kind of, when you look at these players and you look at what they've done, and sure, they might have had all these different accomplishments, but there is certainly a stain on that resume for Life and what he could have done had he not been involved in the match-fixing scandal. And so I can't give Life the greatest ever. Sure, I can say he's one of the best ever. I believe he would have been the greatest of all time had he not done the match-fixing scandal, and had he just stayed the course, continued playing, I believe that he would have easily been the greatest ever. You have SOS, who's a great player. You have Serral now, who is an absolute force to be reckoned with and is certainly challenging a guy like Life. And At this point in time, Serral hasn't been caught up with anything that would tarnish his legacy necessarily. But you got Dark now. And I believe now you've got 3 guys who are, you could bring SOS into it. You could also, of course, say Life. But you've got pretty much Serral, Dark, Life, and SOS all vying for the greatest ever. Now, 2 of these players are done. The other 2 are still playing at this point. And so the question remains is, are we seeing 2 of the greatest ever? And I think one of the biggest matchups I want to see at the, at the World Championships, I want to see Serral and Dark. The battle for the greatest of all time. Because Dark, guys, I mean, he's been kind of quiet over the years. There's been times where people are like, yeah, he doesn't have it anymore. He's not that guy. But then he proves at BlizzCon that he was that guy. He proved his mental toughness against everyone else. And his just will to win at the end of the day. So, I want to see, guys, Serral and Dark go head to head, and it's the battle for the greatest ever, in my opinion, because both these guys, Dark has a resume, an incredible resume. Serral has one that is so challenging to that amazing resume. Serral, the narrative around him is certainly better than Dark's, but Dark is like this guy who has been in the scene for so long, and he's getting better as he's aging almost, and it's unbelievable at the level he's playing StarCraft 2 at. So, can someone dethrone them? I will say absolutely, because anybody can win. These are the best in the world for a reason. I would not bet against Serral, and I would not bet against Dark. And if they met each other, I believe it would be the battle of the greatest of all time, to see who is the greatest ever. And that's my opinion, guys. And I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Sure, there's guys who could certainly throw a monkey wrench in there. Maru or Raynor. Even guys like Classic, Special. I mean, all these guys can certainly contend for a championship. And that's what it comes down to, guys, is world championships. How many of the big one have you won? And how many times did you make it to that final, to the grand finals? How many times have you won the GSL? Or how many times did you win all of these other tournaments? The big one is the big one, though. It's the Super Bowl of StarCraft, without being BlizzCon, obviously. It's the NBA Finals. How many times have you done it? And that's winning at the highest level of competition in StarCraft 2, in my personal opinion, in the hardest esport in the world. But let me know, guys, who can dethrone Serral or Dark? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more StarCraft 2 esports content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.